Hello, this is Mr. O'Connor coming to you from the halls of Grays Lake North High School. Hopefully, all of you are enjoying a great, relaxing Thanksgiving weekend and really enjoying that delicious turkey and mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie and all that other great stuff that we eat on Thanksgiving. And then also a little football, both high school football, college football, and NFL football, of course. Anyways, I'm happy you took a little time out of your relaxing weekend to enjoy a little presentation on fiscal policy. It's important because this is what we're going to be talking about all next week once we get back from our break. And I'd like to give you just a short little intro. This shouldn't take any more than about 10 minutes or so. And then I'd like to take a little short quiz that I've created on Google Docs. And we're going to analyze the results when you get back on Monday to school. So, without further ado, let's get it on. First of all, this is a little bit of review of what we covered as we've started our journey into macroeconomics. Our last unit, we talked about economic indicators, and two of the terms that we learned was both inflation and recession. So just quick little review. Inflation occurs when there's too much money in circulation, leading to an overall rise in prices. So as we learn, essentially it's just a general rise in prices throughout the economy. We also talked about how it essentially means that it takes more money to buy the same stuff, so the value of money goes down. And as we've also learned in our last unit, a recession occurs when there's not enough money in circulation. That leads to a decline in productivity and higher unemployment. So when we have negative GDP growth and unemployment is high, this is when a recession occurs. So fiscal policy is all about trying to fight a recession and inflation all at the same time. So the official definition of fiscal policy, as you can see here on the screen, is a change in federal government spending / taxation designed to promote full employment, price stability, and economic growth. So essentially, in layman's terms, it's when the government institute policy using spending and taxation to stabilize the economy, essentially keep us in full employment, keep prices stable, and continue economic growth, or to fight inflation and at the same time fight a recession or high unemployment. So how are they going to do that? Let's move on. Essentially, there's two types of policies. One's called expansionary fiscal policy, which you can see up here. And here in the definition, in case you're curious, I should mention this firsthand. AD stands for aggregate demand, and what that means is demand throughout the entire economy. That's what fiscal policy is dealing with. Unlike when we looked at our study of microeconomics and we looked at demand within certain markets, like for instance the shoe market and Air Force Ones and things of that nature. Now we're talking about demand throughout the whole economy. That's what fiscal policy is trying to do. Fiscal policy is trying to affect demand throughout the whole economy. So expansionary fiscal policy, I always think of an accordion player expanding the accordion. And what that is when the government increases government spending and also decreases taxes to try to increase aggregate demand throughout the entire economy and thus fight a recession and lower that unemployment. So an example of this, President Obama, when he came into office in 2009, passed what we know as the stimulus package. That stimulus package was full of government subsidies, was full of different types of transfer payments for citizens of this country, was full of tax cuts for businesses and individuals. Okay, that, my friends, is an example of expansionary fiscal policy. So President Obama would be a believer in that. One of the first fiscal policy initiatives that we had, first big ones was FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, and the New Deal. That would be another example of expansionary fiscal policy. And like I said, essentially it's when the government lowers taxes and increases spending to try to fight a recession or high unemployment. Well, there's also what's called contractionary fiscal policy. So the accordion player is going to compress or contract that accordion. That's what I think of. And that's when the government reduces spending and increases taxes to decrease aggregate demand throughout the entire economy and thus fight inflation. So in periods of high inflation, if prices are increasing too fast throughout the economy, the government can enact contractionary fiscal policy as well. So both of these policies lead into something that I've referred to throughout the semester at times. You guys should recognize this, which is known as the multiplier effect. And I've given you examples in class about taking a rock and throwing it into a pond, and you see the ripple out effect of that rock. Well, essentially, that's what I think of when I think of expansionary fiscal policy. The idea that the government spending money to, let's say, rebuild Route 83 out in front of our school, well, that's going to create jobs for a construction worker. That construction worker who didn't have a job before is now going to take that money that he earned from the job, spend it within the community, which is going to create demand throughout other parts of the community. You know, he's going to spend it on food and clothing and to get his hair cut, to get his oil changed. Which that demand that he's creating is going to create jobs for other people and income for other people, and thus it continues to ripple out. That is what's known as the multiplier effect. So here you see increased government spending or increased spending by consumers, businesses, or government becomes income for someone else to increase production and vice versa. That's the whole idea behind the multiplier effect. And like I said, I just think of throwing a rock into a pond and it ripples out. It's essentially what's happening here with this concept of fiscal policy. The government is taking money, throwing it into the pond, and then that's rippling out and creating money for other people. We also have what's known as you see here, supply side fiscal policy, and that is where the government were to cut taxes on businesses, which creates incentives to expand for businesses, and thus that would be another example of fiscal policy known as supply side fiscal policy. So these are the four things that we're going to be talking about more in depth throughout next week in class. So you have that to look forward to, and I also have an awesome graph. That's right, it's awesome. Graph to show you, not really graph, but demonstration to show you in class on Monday. So that's just a little teaser for you guys, what we're going to be doing in class on Monday, but I guarantee it's going to be awesome. So I'd like to go run through a couple little sample questions here, and then what you're going to do after this, after I run through these 4 questions here, you're going to take a quiz generated by Google Documents, which the link's right underneath this video on my website. Like, you click on it, take a couple, answer a couple questions just like this, and we will analyze the results together as a class when you come back on Monday and hopefully learn from each other. That's the idea behind it. So we are going to use, for these questions, use fiscal policy of taxes to solve a recession. So remember, recession is when there's high unemployment and demand is down in the economy. So the government is going to want to fight that recession. Okay, so how are they going to do that? Are they going to, is Congress, what are they going to do to aggregate demand? Are they going to increase demand or decrease demand? So as I said, unemployment is very high in a recession. That means demand is down, and they're going to want to increase demand. So that is A. So let's move on. Remembering that as congressmen and women, we want to increase demand. Next question says, what should Congress do to taxes to change aggregate demand? Well, if they want demand to increase, they're either going to have to increase taxes, A, or B, reduce taxes. Well, if I want to create more demand throughout the economy, as a congressperson, I'm going to reduce taxes. That would be B. Let's move on to number 3. How will this change in taxes affect consumer disposable income? I should mention consumers' disposable income. That refers to the income that they have to spend after taxes are taken out. So the actual amount that they have to spend. Let's say they earn $50,000 within the year. They pay $10,000 in taxes. Their disposable income would be $40,000. So if the government is reducing taxes, let's say from $10,000 on this $50,000 income to $8,000, that is going to increase the disposable income for that person. So that would be letter A would be the answer to question number 3. And then question number 4, how will this change in disposable income affect consumer spending in the economy? Well, that's going to increase consumer spending because instead of just 40,000 to spend, I now have 42,000 because the government's only taking $8,000. Thus, spending increases. Thus, hopefully, the multiplier effect will take place by me spending that extra 2,000. That will create more money for other people, and that will fight a recession or the high unemployment that we are currently dealing with in this problem. So that's it. That's the whole kit and caboodle for you guys. A little intro to fiscal policy. What I would like you to do now is right underneath this video, click on that link to the Google Docs survey that I've created for you guys. Answer those questions to the best of your ability. They're similar questions to what you have here, what we just did together. And then we're going to analyze those results together in class and learn from each other. And it's going to be awesome. I know it will be. All right, so have a good rest of your weekend. Hopefully you didn't eat too much turkey or mashed potatoes, and hopefully we watch a Bears victory this Sunday. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.